it was a slow process throughout that week of them just discovering things that I could do. And then by the time we got in front of a live studio audience, the laughs I had heard all week were just exponentially bigger.
Yeah.
And then we had this fraternity in the live audience that was chanting the name Urkel in between the scenes that I wasn't in. So even that's like, you know, in between scenes, I'm peeking in the wings too, like waving to the guys and everything. Hey, you like that? Hey, I'll be back. Hey, I'll be back.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And
because as a kid, all you want is approval.
What's going on, everybody? As I mentioned throughout the week, I was very excited for my next guest. Obviously, we all grew up with this guy. You know him from Family Matters. He's got a brand new book, and it is called Growing Up with Urkel. He's in the upcoming new Star Wars show, Skeleton Crew. He's the original voice of Sonic the Hedgehog. Ladies and gentlemen, Jaleel White. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
It is really good to have you on the show, and I said it off air. Thank you for really diving deep into your world, your history, and it's not easy to do that, to share your life with people in that way in kind of a vulnerable place.
Yeah, no, I think it ended up being a book about humility and, you know, going from being humble to being aware.
Yeah.
And in doing that, you gotta start in the mirror. Like, you gotta be like, okay, well, what was my role in that?
Right.
And so it was kind of cool because I called up, you know, some of my former cast members, especially Darius and Kelly, namely, and we had some really good memory lane conversations. We've always kept in touch, so even the idea that we don't is completely false. We just keep it out of the spotlight.
Well, you talked about it in the book. You said there were times when you had a little bit of breaks, and that you even said on the set, you're like, "This is silly. Why are we doing this?"
Oh yeah, well that's when I talked about my relationship with Kelly.
Yeah.
I definitely talk about my relationship with Kelly very candidly, and okay, so Kelly is Laura to you guys. I will never call her Laura to her face, ever. But that's okay, we get it. But I have such a deep admiration for her that's very personal.
Yeah.
And I'd rather not even paraphrase it here. I really would urge you to buy the book or get the audio book because I actually do the audio myself.
Yeah, and I think that people should absolutely do that because, as I was saying, what I thought was really good about it, the second you start reading it, you can hear it in your voice. You can read. You're just like you just feel like it's a conversation like we're having now, right? And I was on the set with you when you were talking about these things, but the other thing I thought was really great was, again, how vulnerable you were able to do because you were a kid, man. You were a kid going through this stuff and like the first crushes, the idea of being able to handle this crazy fame. You tell a story, and again, I don't want you to go through the whole thing because you can read it in the book. But I thought was so telling was when you weren't even supposed to be a regular cast member. You blow up, you have this appearance, and then you start to get this crazy fame. And the Laker game story. Can you tell as much as you can without giving away the whole thing?
You know, you have these seminal moments before social media where you learn you're famous. Yeah. And for me, there were probably about 3 or 4 moments that kind of happened in succession. But one of the key moments was me getting invited to a Laker game by one of our producers, and the whirlwind of events that took place that night. I'm 13 years old. I idolized the Lakers, and now I am an official guest of Jerry Buss at the game, and I'm like, because of my producer. Yeah. And that night, just who I met, and it was such an eclectic group of people too. Yeah. It's like Jeffrey Tambor and Edie McClurg, the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Right? And it's like, you know, some people might see it as a name drop, but it's not. I'm trying to show you the eclecticness of show business, right? And the paths that you can intersect. And then I ended up going into the Laker locker room after, and that would mean that's, come on, you're 13 years old. You
idolize Magic Johnson.
Yeah, we talk about Magic at the apex of who he was. And in that locker room, there were a lot of really cool reveals.
Yeah. Again, read the book. Read the book.
A lot of really.
Totally.
And more than one.
Yeah.
More than one reveal.
Well, but that particular story was very telling to me because, as I was telling you before we started shooting, I grew up in New York, moved to LA, lived there for about 25 years, just moved back in June. Okay. So there was so much, and you had mentioned at one point that you can really tell where you are as an actor, like as far as the fame gauge. If you can walk around LA, if you can't walk around in Los Angeles, and go, if you can walk there and people are like, hey, can I have your autograph? You know the apex of where you are at that point in your career.
Well, that's something I just kind of learned. Yeah. Los Angeles can be a very jaded town. And
can be.
His reaction is everything you need.
Right.
But it's also my hometown.
Yeah.
So you got to learn how to navigate your hometown in a way that it makes it feel like home to you. And so I really do enjoy what it is to basically walk around in LA and, go in and out of businesses, et cetera, et cetera. And you don't even realize how you do it. You create normal routes for yourself that feel normal to you. And I'm not necessarily, I'm not a celebrity in those moments. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I'm just a dad that lives in this area or whatever. So in LA, when all of a sudden your little daily routes as a public figure become, laden with people wanting autographs, wanting selfies, wanting what, he was like, yo, what's going on? Why is everybody asking me for my, for a selfie now again? And if that's happening in LA sets a high barometer for who they're going to go after.
Sure.
Only Travis Scott and Taylor are going to cause stampedes in LA. Otherwise it's everybody playing cool when they see somebody that happens to work in entertainment.
Yeah, but not Jaleel White in 1990.
Yeah, well, that was different.
1990 is a, and let's talk about that, man, because again, being a kid at that age and realizing, as you mentioned again in the book, where that show was the networks, and they still do this type of stuff today, scrambling on Cosby Show. It's a hit. What do we do next? We need a show about a black family. Let's do it. So they do Family Matters, and it's doing okay. So they introduced the character of Urkel in season 1 at the end, and you go in there and I think you break it down really great at how you're just getting ready. And well, before you go into that, I actually wanted to talk about something. So I had the opportunity of interviewing both Sholem Adeduenya from Cobra Kai and Blue Beetle many times. I've been interviewing him since he was like 16 years old.
Yeah.
I interviewed him.
I'm a fan of his, man. I wrote something, Matt, actually, with that kid in mind to star.
He's a great kid, man. He
ain't a kid no more.
No, he's not. It's just crazy. I see him as a kid because I interviewed him when he was 16 years old, right? And so the other person I bring up, and I also will take, you say that there hasn't been a lot of great reboots. And I'm kind of battling with you because it's half movie. No, Cobra Kai. But Cobra Kai is also based off the movie, so I'll give you a
No, we can get into it, though. I don't consider that a reboot. I consider that a re-envisioning.
It depends on what your definition of reboot is.
A definition, okay, so I'm glad you're asking that.
Yeah.
A definition of reboot to me is you go do the exact same show with the exact same cast, or as many cast members from the previous IP that exists. Sure. I mean, with Cobra Kai is genius. Yeah. I mean, I watched it when it was on YouTube Originals.
Yeah.
I was an early adopter to that. It didn't catch on until it went to Netflix in an acquisition deal. And people don't get these things sometimes. Like when that thing first popped on, I was like, oh, what is this? And they took one element of the movie and put it in each episode, so that if you knew the movie, you'd be like, this is from the movie, this is from the movie. They built it around Zolo, which he had nothing to do with. He was not an original cast member at all. What are you talking about? It was Ralph Macchio. So I just feel like that's a re-envisioning because they took a movie and they created an entire universe around that movie.
I push back a little bit only because reboot for me it was always mentioning of because remake, reboot, right? Reboot is like we're rebooting it again, giving it some new life and pushing it forward, right? So,
but was Cobra Kai ever an existing show?
No, it wasn't. But the characters they use, we could. I'm telling you that you and I could probably debate this for a full hour.
Let's
go.
I
don't want to waste it. I don't want to waste it.
Because I just want you to understand. It was just like, okay, No, man, it's a re-envisioning.
No, it's not. All right. Fair enough. But the point with him and also, so did you see Prey, the Predator movie on Hulu?
I did not.
Okay, so Amber Midthunder is another.
By the way, that was the most polite disagreement you will ever see on an issue between two people. I say re-envisioning, he says reboot, and we just politely move on.
100%.
If only our country's politics could work the same way.
It does not. This is why I turned the news off now at this point. But where it comes to those two examples, the reason I bring them up is something that I started to hear in my head when I'm reading your book, and that's the family that surrounds all three of you. Shola's mom, very strong in his life, keeping him grounded. Amber's mom, very same with you. I know it was both your mom and your dad had a lot, but your mom keeping you on track. And I loved the story about the car, because as a dad with two daughters, like, yeah, you can have your own car. Yeah, you got your own money, but take care of this thing first and then get it. But what is it about your family that really kept you? Because you don't hear a lot of stories about you, man, how, like, because someone at your age, you could have heard really going down the wrong track, and you didn't, and so do you definitely say, this is my family upbringing, this is the reason why I'm able to have these morals that I do?
Yeah, no, listen, I say it, this is the one thing I share in all my talks about the book, is one of the key quotes is, the first miracle in your life is who you're born to. Mm-hmm. And somehow your karmic past life creates that for you, and you enter the game to start anew. So for me, I was blessed with two parents who were very young. They came from extremely humble beginnings in the Crenshaw district in LA, but they had an instinct to pour a lot of love into me and protect me. My father was a huge protector. I outlined a very key moment. And my mother was, for better or for worse, a helicopter mom. Mm-hmm. So, the point of bringing that up, of her being such a helicopter mom, is, as much as it was a pain in the butt for me even at times growing up, helicopter moms like mine, or perhaps Zolo's, they send a clear message to predators that someone is here, loves this kid,
right,
and is paying attention to what's happening to them. You can't just drop off your kid on a movie studio lot and expect them to just return home at the end of the day like it's a school and the bell rings at 3:00. Mm-hmm. It's like, no. That's an adult working environment. I can only imagine how many people we may have even worked with as kids back in the 90s who may have had rap sheets. They were not, their backgrounds checks were shoddy.
Nickelodeon stuff, man.
Well, it's funny you bring that up, though.
Yeah.
That situation is not funny at
right.
all.
I know what you're saying.
But odd that you brought that up. But Quiet on Set, the Nickelodeon documentary, I did break down and watch it for the sake of writing this book. And I found that to be a very key moment when his mother and his father, the mother came and basically upended the father's place. And the father had odd feelings about this particular guy.
Yeah.
But in a co-parenting situation that just wasn't going well, the father was displaced. And the second he was alone out there, that's when the offender went to work.
Right.
So, I really salute the parents that figure out that there has to be some type of supervision on your sets. If your kid is working in show business, I don't care if it's Broadway, I don't care if it's TV, if it's movies, if it's, the music business. Oh my gosh, that gets even wilder though. So, but that was my mom. My mom was a helicopter mom, and she wasn't going nowhere.
Well, what also I thought was pretty telling when it came to both your parents was that, and I think relating to what we were just talking about here, is I think that the greed and the carrot can be dangled in front of a lot of the parents, and they see it and they see the money and they go, oh, okay, well, I just kind of turn an eye, my kid's making the money, and then oh, what am I buying for me? And your parents didn't do that, and you guys lived in the same place for quite a while and all that, and to me that's very telling, dude. And
I had the same crackerbox bedroom. Matter of fact, I think it was, we started going on so many trips for work or for appearances. Hawaii, obviously I talked about going on staying at the Plaza Hotel in that particular room. Yep. And when we would come home, no joke, our house was starting to become smaller than the hotel rooms we were staying in.
Right.
And it was like, even that was starting to be like, Mom, how much longer are we going to stay here?
Sure. Yeah, but did you take that into some of your parenting? Because your kids definitely grew up a lot different than you did because of the success that you had. So when you're taking it into your parenting with your daughter, do you feel that this is something that you took with you?
Oh, I take a lot of different things from my mom and my dad. It's amazing how when you have a child, how instinctively you actually lean on whatever your parents did to you.
Right.
And you got to be careful, too, because you got to unlearn a lot of stuff that your parents did to you.
Sure.
That may not be appropriate anymore or may not be applicable to your kid. I don't think a lot of people pay attention to, I'm not going to say a lot of people, I don't think enough people pay close enough attention to their children's gifts and their children's proclivities and what they're naturally drawn to. So much as adults, we're just kind of conditioned to project everything that was us and our past onto our kid.
Right.
And I got lucky in that way, and that, I basically, if my dad wasn't allowed to, I would say this from the book, my dad's very athletic, and he never played sports. And he asked his mother, to sign a permission slip for him to play football. And she said she had to talk to God. And God never got back to her.
Right.
And so that was it. My father never played on a sports team. Because of that, my dad made it a point to sign me up for everything. And so I never felt pressured, and I always felt that I could play anything I wanted, thanks to my dad. So that's a positive, and where a negative happened to my father, and he turned into a positive in my life. And I think both he and my mom did a really cool job of that, and I try to emulate that as well.
Yeah, I loved that.
You're welcome. Yep, I gave you the gift of Via. That's right, and I'm going to give it to you again. If you want to break from the crowded stores and the endless gift lists, you restore your zen and you embrace the natural power of cannabis this holiday season with Via. This holiday season, you got to unwind, you recharge with Via. Whether you're enjoying a quiet evening at home or embracing the festive cheer, Via's premium THC and THC-free gummies will help you find your perfect holiday balance. Via is well renowned for their award-winning THC and THC-free gummies, and they legally ship to nearly all states in the U.S. in discreet packaging directly to your door with a worry-free guarantee. There's no medical card required. Right now, Via is having a huge holiday sale. For a limited time, you can save up to 25% off of site-wide, plus up to 50% off select items and bundles. So if you are 21 and up, check out our link to Via's website in the description. I absolutely love Via. There's so many different things. It does feel like Christmas when you get it. Anyway, my favorite one is the sleep one. I really dig it. It's wonderful. Really nice dreams. Use that code Kristian for 25% off. And after you purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. You got to support our show, and you tell them that we sent you this holiday season. Enhance your everyday with Via. You're welcome. Hey, Mando, you all been running around, working out, just walking. And you're like, oh, that stinks. No matter where it is, your pits, your nuts, you need Mando. I like Mando because it's smooth, baby. But I like when I'm in the shower and I'm using any of the Mando stuff, I'm like, oh, I smell wonderful. And I didn't know how it was going to work before I even knew about Mando. And then now that I do, I can't go back. I love it. Deodorant is wonderful. It is safe to use anywhere in your body. You can use it on your pits. You can use it on your nuts. You can use it on your thigh. No matter what, your belly button, your butt. There's a lot of different variety of fresh scents that you can do. Bourbon leather is the one. I talked to Winston about one. That's the one I think he uses too. 12 hours after the shower, the average man's Grundle odor level was 5 out of 10. With Mando, the average Grundle odor level is a 0. Mando starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for our listeners, new customers will get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. Big thing. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack code. You got to use that code BIGTHING. Go to shopmando.com, shopmando.com. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. Use that code. Big thing.
When you said it yourself inside of the book, your words to where your head was getting a little big at one point, and then
no, there's a title, a chapter in the book called entitled "Little Shit."
Yeah,
that's the name of the chapter.
Yeah, and that's why I said when I opened this up, the honesty of it, because it's like it's oh, that's what I did, and you guys were the wrong ones. It's like there's a lot of things that we're human. It's human, and as you said before, it's humbling to where you understand the things that you did, the things that you did right, the things that you did wrong, the things you want to change.
There's so much peace though on the other side of accountability.
Sure.
There really is.
Yeah,
I don't want to sound like a preacher at all or anything like that, but I'm like just looking in the mirror and being like, what did I do in that?
Right.
And I don't know. It's something that has served me so much better in my adulthood, and I was completely oblivious to how many people just they can't do it.
Right.
And even when I watch something like Quiet on Set, I just see that. You can, from person to person, you go, okay, this person's choosing to be accountable. Oh, this person just wants to completely ignore it.
Right. And it's like, and then I also that comes with for some people, power of age and understanding and wisdom, as you get older and things. I had some take that I had on my show the other day, and I saw a comment that said, well, the reason why you said that is because that is you getting older and mature and understanding
when the grays come in.
100%. Yeah, looking at that. But to jump back into you in this role and what you did, and the idea of taking that role, which was just like, hey, I'm auditioning for something, I get this part as Urkel, and I walk in. Can you remember though that particular day, because you dressed the part, you auditioned with the part, all that, but the day on set, and because you're 12 years old at that point, so can you take me through that moment of right as you get on the stage and the cameras are ready to roll, and like, did you just feel yourself become Urkel?
No, I think so. For me, the moment I'm on stage, but it's my first time rehearsing, so there's no cameras there yet, but it's just me rehearsing with Kelly Williams and the girl who was playing Penny, her like best friend, and we're at the local school diner, and they called me to set, and that was my first day working with Rich Carell. And Rich Carell's like a legendary sitcom director. Mm-hmm. His father was one of the duo of Amos and Andy, and so he came from a huge comedy background. And Rich comes from the old school directors too, where he would position you. He'd put his hands on you. Here, you stand here. You stand here. You can't touch nobody now. Right. And I remember him just right off the bat. He was just like, I want to see something here. He said, he's like, you seem like you're an athlete. You like playing basketball? I heard you like playing basketball. I was like, yeah, man, yeah. And he taught me a trick of how to hit a door with my foot and then snap my head back, so that people actually are reacting to the sound, cool. But you never even really hit your head. And so for him to be able to show that to a kid, and the kid does it, and it looks believable, and he doesn't get hurt, he's like, oh, okay, I've got a toy I can work with here. I've got something to work with, right? A lot of times a sitcom director is actually trying to hide what an actor or an actress can't do. So when you reveal to them that you can do something, you can sing, you can take a pratfall, you can lift something or whatever. Oh, you're giving them a lot to work with. So it was a slow process throughout that week of them just discovering things that I could do. And then by the time we got in front of a live studio audience, the laughs I had heard all week were just exponentially bigger.
Yeah.
And then we had this fraternity in the live audience that was chanting the name Urkel in between the scenes that I wasn't in. So even that's like, in between scenes, I'm peeking in the wings too, like waving to the guys and everything. Hey, you like that? Hey, I'll be back. I'll be back.
That's hilarious. Yeah. And
because as a kid, all you want is approval.
Of course.
From any and everybody.
Yeah, and then as you were saying though, because as we mentioned earlier, where Family Matters was doing okay, and here's the introduction of Steve Urkel. You bring him, here he is, and then it's like, the writers were probably and the director and everybody, producers, probably having a field day going, wait a minute, we think we got something here more, so let's start using this kid. And they do. They make you a regular cast member in season 2, and that's when it all happens. Is there, and I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but is there, once you start really becoming, because every time you mention Family Matters, the first people person they think of is you. You don't have to say it, but I can. And it's the first person that they think of. And is there at that point, maybe it's season 3, maybe it's season 5, that you're feeling it from the other cast saying, "Hey, we're here too"? Does it ever feel like that, or is it always like, no, we love what's happening with Jaleel also, and they were very supportive of it?
No, I mean, it's well documented. Things were bumpy in the beginning, especially in season 1 when I wasn't even really a confirmed regular. I just got signed to the back 9 episodes, and there were definitely on-set differentiators. Your dressing room is over there. Your parking lot is still way over there, and your parking space is still way in the structure, and I wasn't a part of cast intros or any of that kind of stuff in the beginning, and I don't begrudge that, actually. That's why when those things changed in season 2, as a kid, you're excited. You feel like you earned something, sure. Actually. But we quickly became a family, and I remember I can remember things sometimes episode by episode. Boxcar Blues was the episode I really felt like Reggie and I developed a almost Laurel and Hardy type chemistry, and we were trapped in a train together, and with no way of getting off, and Steve is just annoying the living heck out of him, and I could make Reggie break character, like just by making certain faces and just do it. He would just crack up. That's the reality of what our relationship really was over the span of 9 years. Reggie was the #1 comedy scene partner, and then it's a toss-up. It's really close between Michelle Thomas, may she rest in peace, who played Myra, and Kelly, my second scene partners, where just magic would happen when I was in scenes with these people.
Well, you bring up Michelle, and there's something that you'd mentioned when it comes back to our conversation of reboot and remake, right?
Here we go again. The debate's back on.
Yeah, it is. But no, you had the conversation, I think was a really great intro, dude, of how you get into all of this. And you have the meeting, Bob?
Yeah.
You have the meeting with Bob. And so many different people have been trying to get you to do the reboot, or to try to get you back to do.
It wasn't so many people.
No.
I mean, I actually like to clarify that.
Okay.
It was just like, I was never really offered a reboot. It's just the easiest way to talk about it. I was offered by our top executive producer, who is still with us. I was offered a blind contract with the studio that basically said, you sign here, you will be paid this amount of money, and we'll take it from there.
And we'll tell you what it is when it's
done. And we will tell you what it is when it's done.
Right.
And I'm like, hold on, man. Like, so. And his pitch was, Steve and Laura get married, and they have a kid that's so similar to Steve. And in my opinion, I've always called that, it says, that's the Twitter pitch.
Yeah.
I can literally go, and I have gone on Twitter and be like, oh, I see 12 different versions of this, tweeted out by somebody else. And how dare we go embark on this and call that IP that you own?
Right.
Are you serious? So... And the other cast members were always discussed in a very, and they'll drop by. Right. So it's like, so even that, I like to help the narrative that somehow I put myself in front of everybody, and I'm only thinking about what's going to serve me. I'm like, no. I'm actually trying to avoid a situation again where cast members from past think that they want to do it better this time in their favor,
right.
And you're back for all episodes, and you get your old payback, and no, that's not what they have in mind for you. That's one of the things, just even about life. Information tends to filter down.
Sure.
And
especially today.
Yeah. If you don't know what you don't know, you could be speaking crazy about what the possibilities even are for yourself. So yeah, that was the extent of the offer. There was no script. There was no writing producer attached.
We just want to secure you so we can do it.
Yeah. Once we have you,
right,
we can go make a deal.
Right. And what was that? Was that 2016?
It was around 2016.
So 2016. So that was right around, like, as you mentioned in the book, when it was the Full House remakes are happening and all these different things that people are doing that and pushing forward. Hey, let's get the nostalgia stuff back. I actually thought it would have been more interesting if Urkel's kid was the exact opposite of him. That would have been a lot.
Listen, I was actually open to a lot of ideas. I had a very simple ask. Show me some stories.
Right.
And suddenly that became a top tier ask. Well, we're going to get writers, then they'll figure it out.
Right.
No. We're here at lunch. Just pitch me a couple stories.
Right.
Because I knew it couldn't be done, but I wanted to hear it anyway. I'm like, humor me. Like, what? We jumped the shark. We put people in porta potties and we made them cool, and we transported entire families to Paris, and we created a universe that was only acceptable in the 90s, and it's fantastic for the 90s. And it's almost kind of like a Bugs Bunny cartoon. Those are considered violent and dangerous for kids now, but to us, they're classics.
Woody Woodpecker's
right?
a serial killer at this point.
Exactly, right? But made back then,
right.
And appreciated now, they're classics.
Right.
So that's why people can still enjoy, which I think is amazing, that people don't even realize that Family Matters, there's never a cell phone on our show. There's never anybody, not a smartphone, or rarely anybody call it. I mean, Steve all had every kind of phone device, but I mean, just like in the traditional sense, a phone is not a part of our narrative at all, and kids today are still watching that. So I was my goal was like, okay, if we're going to make something, let's make something that advances the legend of Family Matters. And one of my favorite skits is the Key and Peele skit.
I was just going to ask you about it. I was going to ask you what do you think. Did you love it?
I love that. Jordan Peele actually he FaceTimed me, and I was skiing, and it's one of my greatest screenshot regrets. I never answer my phone either when I'm skiing. I keep that thing in my pocket and I enjoy my day. But I was getting on the lift and I had my helmet on, goggles and everything, and it's snowing and I feel it buzzing and I pick it up and it's my boy King Batch and Jordan Peele. And that's a little secret in famous circles. When certain famous people, FaceTime you, it means they got something good on the other side.
right.
And if they don't, it means the call might not be answered next time. So I answered. I take my mittens off. I wear mittens. I don't wear gloves. You keep my hands warm. And I take my mittens off and I answer. And it's Jordan Peele and King Batch. And he's like, hey, this Negro's in the snow, right? and it's just like a moment where I was like, and it was like literally 2 years later, like he won the Oscar. And I'm like, why didn't I hit that button? Because it was such a surreal moment.
Sure.
He was like, man, I thought you would be mad. You would be upset. And I said, Jordan, my criteria for anything has always been audience satisfaction and is it funny? If it's funny, we got to find a way to do it. And that skit, it was as if they had a mole on our set that just took, behind the scenes energy and made it into an SNL skit. Now, the show that I would envision that's more inspired by the book would definitely be tonally different. That's the skit that Jordan did is over the top.
Sure.
But there was something about the meta acknowledgement of it all, right? When he just goes on the rant and he's like, Steve Urkel builds a machine that transports Carl to Mars. And he, like when he was going through the rant, right?
So you were losing it when you saw it.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm losing it, dog. I'm like, oh man, I think this is what people want to see in our, if there is to be a reboot, is some incarnation of this. And that doesn't even necessarily involve me all that much. That would mean casting a kid to play the central character. And if it was all about me, I'd just be trying to work out something where I'm the star and I get the highest check and I get the parking spot and blah, 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 blah. But I'm like, no, man, it's especially in this day and age.
Yeah.
You have to consider the audience. Like I just went to see the Beetlejuice remake and I loved it. Yeah. I could feel the difference when Tim Burton is working for the studio
and having fun,
and when Tim Burton is in his bag and he's having fun.
Yeah, and he's using all the claymation stuff again and doing
exactly,
that stuff.
Exactly right. And it's just like that's what it takes to make a hit. Is I want to see Tim Burton happy with the audience's response, not just Tim Burton happy, but like happy with the audience's response.
Totally,
and then that's a great treat for us.
I agree with that, and I talk about it all the time on my show. I feel one of the biggest problems too is the overspending in studios. They overspend with when it comes.
It's
to
government
movies.
Spending.
It really is, man. They spend like. Look, I love The Rock, but spending $250 million on a Christmas movie is not a Christmas action movie, and it does $35 million opening weekend. It's like, it's a different time these days.
Well, let me tell you something. I want to work with The Rock one day, so I completely disagree. It's
totally fair. As you should. And I love him. But he's not the only one. There's tons of people out there that are spending way too much money on these movies. But to jump back to your point, when it comes to you got to do it for the right reasons and all that. And I wonder inside that, because you said you were open to it.
Yeah.
But inside of that, is there that thing?
Stories.
Yeah, right. But when you leave that show initially, and you're going, and I'm sure, because I talked to Mark Paul Gosselaar not too long ago, and he was talking about like his time as Zach Morris, and like
smart dude right there too.
Very smart dude, but he was typecast for a bit, and it was hard for him to find work. Like, what's that? And you talked about it, but like, what's the transition period, kind of like from, all right, now here's this, I'm at the height of my fame, and people know me everywhere I go. I'm going to Laker games. I'm meeting Magic Johnson. I'm taking pictures of Michael Jordan, and then the show's over. Where is that point of like, oh my God, what am I going to do here? Everyone sees me as a Urkel.
Well, it's deeper than that. I'm so happy you actually threw out a name like Mark Paul Gosselaar, right? Because that's somebody who has worked steady. And I know the ones who have worked steady. Transitioning to your next big opportunity that people will actually know and remember you for, it's tough for anybody, man. You remember the old series Chips?
Yeah, of course. Eric Estrada?
Yeah. And I go do my research. I get my Google on. But it wasn't. But I love that you just said Eric Estrada too. What was the white guy's name?
Exactly. Wasn't his name John exactly?
Okay, I don't remember quite either. But guess what? I know who his son was. His son is Chris Pine.
Wow. See, that you do know that. Okay, so that is I did not know that.
And that guy after Chips had a tough time finding work.
Right.
And he and his wife, when I read their story, I mean, they did some real things to make ends meet. I think it's a little deeper than typecasting. It's according to the rules of the business, the executives that run our business, there are very few who will be designated a TV star even when their TV show is no longer on the air. I can't find a moment when Ted Danson wasn't designated a TV star, even in between shows.
Right.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus, TV star, even in between shows. But a guy like that, you said Eric Estrada, you couldn't even tell me his name, but he's iconic. And, I would put that in line with more or less somebody like Mark Paul Gosselaar, where I love showing other examples so that people can just have a respect for what it is to stay alive in the business, period, no matter how you've been, imaged or branded. And I just have real, I see the guys that put in the work. I see the guys that go jump on the stage and do something on Broadway or write books or, direct. Yeah. Some people make entire switches into directing. And then they return to acting. But this notion that you're going to get to do one thing, act forever in consecutive years, uninterrupted, and your pay's only going to go up. I only know one person who gets to do that. It's Tom Cruise.
I was just going to say Tom Cruise. Yeah, Tom Cruise, for sure.
So I respect that journey.
My dad always brings that up, too. He's like, even when I told him, because I went to LA for a bunch of different reasons, but when my dad was always like, you remember that it's a very fickle business, and there's the percentage of people that stick around. Even if there's big things that happen, big things will happen, but you got to always have backup plans. You always got to have ideas and things you do, because you get that role, and especially as a kid, you probably think this is going to go on forever.
Actually, it was the opposite for us.
Really? Because your parents?
Yeah. We kept waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Right. So you always prepared, and that's why saving and those, again, why it is so. I'm telling people to go check out this book, because you really get such a grounded perspective of this. And then, when you're done with the show and you're trying to find new opportunities, When did Sonic come into play?
Oh, Sonic actually was like my high school side hustle.
Oh, it was. Okay.
Yeah,
I thought the candy was the side.
Yeah, like that was my middle school
your
side
middle
hustle.
school. Right.
That was Sonic was my high school side hustle.
Okay.
Man. I barely even wanted that job, which I talk about. I was so headstrong about wanting to do an Urkel cartoon, which just felt more organic. And I'm so happy I did not get what I wanted. You know, that's another thing that I try to share with people. Any of the stories I share about myself are actually just salad dressing for the life lesson that might apply to you.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of the book. That was where I was sneaky with it, but now the book is done and I can tell you. I'm like, when you read a story, look and see how it affects you. If we always got whatever we wanted, think about how miserable you'd be.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
If you got every girl you ever wanted, if you got every car, every job you thought you deserved. The movie I said I wanted to get so bad, even in the book, turned out to be one of the worst films that year. They got a Razzie for everything.
Yeah.
So you have to put yourself in a mindset of being prepared, but being welcoming of the blessings that are really intended for you, which means not being jealous of other people, not being envious of other people. And also, this is the part that comes with age, and you can't expect young people to understand it, is respecting patience.
Yeah.
Because people ask me, why now? Why is the right time now? And I'm like, I have many different answers for that, but the simple answer for it is that there were these incremental steps that just kept pulling me towards the opportunity with all of its supporters. Yeah. It even, you can't see her, but it even started with my brand manager at the AP Brand Group introduces me to this literary agent, and I turned her down at first. I'm like, I don't see a deal here. I had somebody advising me, and then a year later, Alexi comes back from AP Brand Group again, and she's like, that girl still wants to talk. And it's like, all right. And then I get introduced to Yadon Israel at Simon & Schuster and another publishing house too that I won't name because they were nice people. But the second I got on with Yadon, it was just like,
you felt it.
Oh,
yeah.
All of those delays were supposed to get me to you.
Right. And that's similar to what you're saying, and that's what happened with Sonic.
And that's even what happened with Sonic. It was like Sonic was put in my path to help save my future.
Wow.
When I go to Comic-Cons or I hear from fans, it's damn near split. It's damn near split.
Wow.
The fans of Sonic the Hedgehog are as loyal as you would ever imagine. Okay. That's why I was like, not being included in the movie.
I was going to ask you, is any talks in these movies at all?
No, it was
nothing.
And I talk about it, in the book because I don't ever want to feel like I have sour grapes, but that's just the way it goes in our town. Is that it's an IP, it's an intellectual property, meaning Sonic.
Sure.
And Sega licenses it to whoever they want to, and when it goes to somebody, everybody wants to put their imprint on it, and when they got Jim Carrey to be in the film, everything else became secondary.
Sure.
And so that's how I kind of missed out being in the Sonic film. Though.
But the new one coming out this year, but isn't there something? Obviously, maybe not with the voice because they've got someone doing the voice of the character now. But even showing up and there's been no conversations.
I'm telling you, that's not my. It don't work that way. But you need to essentially have a fan that happens to be on that program, or that movie, and they are in a place of influence, and they say, "Hey, I want."
Let's make it happen. Share the clip. Let's get this guy in number 4. That's the whole point. We're going to share this clip and get you in number 4.
Listen, I would welcome it. Trust me. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Jim anyway, and I've met Jim through Jeff Ross, and he's everything I thought. He's everything I thought he would be. The man's a genius.
Yeah.
But that's just the way those things work out. Fans at home think that they're being considered so much. They're not considering you, bro. They are considering their Roman office politics and And if the thing makes a whole lot of money, then they look good as the stewards of the project.
Yeah, it is true. But social media is powerful, man. Social media is powerful.
Yeah.
Look at Rosario Dawson when she was on an interview with my friend Ash Crossan actually, and they were mentioning Ahsoka, and the fans had put her as Ahsoka in that clip.
She's awesome.
She's awesome. And then it went viral, and she got Ahsoka. So who knows? Let's get Jaleel in number 4, please. But speaking of Star Wars, we got Skeleton Crew coming.
What are you talking about?
You can't even talk about Skeleton.
What is going on?
Well, we know you're in it.
Wait. Am I?
Is it one of those?
Am I?
You're not? Oh, we don't know if you're in it.
Am I? I'm a huge Star Wars universe fan.
I can tell
I'll
you,
leave it at that.
this is how powerful Disney is. Because you and I have been having a very good boom, boom, boom. I say that, and you just went silent. So nothing. You can't talk about Skeleton Crew whatsoever. Do you like Bryce Dallas Howard as a director? I can say that. I can ask that.
I loved all the directors.
You do like all the directors.
I appreciate that. It's quite a lineup of directors they have though there.
Can I ask you what you thought of the trailer? Can I ask you about what did you? About
Yeah,
the trailer
I think there's a real. I think that Skeleton Crew definitely has a chance of restoring a lot of the magic that's associated with the Star Wars.
The Star Wars. Yeah.
I can tell from this trailer, they spent a lot of money and they spent it in a lot of good places.
It looks like it, yeah. Because I actually had an opportunity. I met John Watts outside of.
He's dope.
Yeah, Star Wars Celebration, and
not that I've met him.
He's just yeah, right, sure. And I saw him. It was myself, my friend Steph, and my friend Mike, and we saw him outside of our hotel, and they had just done this big presentation on it, and they kept pushing. Him and Favreau kept pushing the fact that this is Goonies, Amblin type of thing, and he goes, look. Just because there's kids in it doesn't mean there's not going to be some kind of
it's not that I can say. It seemed like we were more comfortable in the 80s and 90s with kids being the central characters of more elevated storytelling, and think about films like The Lost Boys, and that was pretty. That's still a seminal vampire movie, right? It's
totally.
Nothing but minors at the core of that story,
Great
right?
movie, yeah.
But something happened. I don't know if it was the emergence of Disney Channel and Nickelodeon or what, where it's like if a minor's at the center of a story, the story can't be taken seriously.
Right.
So, it definitely rises above that, I promise you.
Okay. I'll get you away from the trouble zone at this point. We'll move on. I want to talk about a movie that I feel is super underrated.
What's up?
I loved it. Hustle.
Hey,
I love that movie, dude.
Thank you, man.
I loved that movie.
Thank you
and I
so
remember
much.
watching it. Look, I'm an Adam Sandler classic, Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison.
He's shooting Happy Gilmore right now.
I
was
know.
supposed to go to set, but I can't find the time to get there.
I'm excited for that, and I can't wait to talk about nostalgia. Right, I'm looking forward to that. But to me, Punch Drunk Love, Hustle, the movies that he's really like, you can see. I feel like there's a lot of like real, and you know better than I do, but like real Adam
Uncut
in
gems.
there.
Oh man,
Yeah, Uncut Gems, but like, that definitely I don't think was real Adam. But like who he is in the core, but he was a great performance. So tell me about that, because you have a great relationship with him. Obviously, he wrote a nice thing about you in this book. Tell me about your relationship with Adam, getting that role, and about working on that movie.
Man, Hustle is one of those, again, just one of those blessings. They just kind of came out of nowhere, and it had the perfect timing. So many great things happened because of Hustle. I got called out of the blue, middle of pandemic, worst of pandemic. The thing I'm most impressed with Hustle as a production, I stared at that screen in every corner. Not a single mask in any shot on the ground. Even in the basketball scenes outdoors, I'm like, there's got to be a mask on the ground. So not a single mask on the ground. Everybody was masked up and 6 feet apart for the shooting of that film during the times when they had not yelled action. I literally would be talking to Adam on the set, and someone in a flak jacket would come up to us and say, "You guys, could you separate, please?" And I mean, that's an annoying thing for a PA with that amount of power now suddenly to come up and do. And that dude was super gracious. Yeah. Adam was super. Sorry about that. Sorry. And he just, and so I would take my cues even from him. It's like, all right, if number one is going to observe it, then hey, I'm gonna follow suit. But I had to quarantine at the Four Seasons in Philadelphia, 57th floor, eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches 10 days in a row. before it was safe for me to be around Mr. Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
And I was actually going through some personal stuff at that time, so it was kind of like it was almost like a breakup rehab for me.
Yeah,
sure, I was actually texting with my future wife.
Oh, really?
Yeah, wow. from quarantine. And Adam calls me up one day and he goes, at the end of the 10 days, he says, "Hey man, we're gonna play some basketball. I know you've been here, but if you want to come play, let me know." And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure." He said, "Well, how soon do you think you can get packed up?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know. I can be ready as early as tomorrow morning." I was going to sit down for lunch, and he's like, "Okay, sure, cool." And then another person called me back and said, "Hey, Adam just wanted me to let you know that we could send a car for you right now."
Oh, wow.
And then it hit. I was like, "Oh, he's saying pack your shit, bro. You are out of the Four Seasons. Welcome to the bubble."
Right.
So I canceled my lunch and went back my stuff, and into the bubble I went, where we were living on a compound. They were living on a compound. I went to join them, and I was one of basically like 6 people that were allowed to play basketball with Adam on this private property. And that's what we did for the next 10 days. And then the next 8 days, we got down to filming. And it was just magical, man.
Yeah.
The people, the parade of people that came through who have a love for the game. That's the other thing people don't really notice about the movie, is every single cast member of that movie has an attachment to basketball.
I noticed that because I know Adam's a big ball.
But I mean, every single cast member,
yeah.
if you look into their background,
Love it.
has an attachment to basketball that is authentic.
So that's all the whole set was just talking basketball.
I think Hustle is a top 3 basketball film of all time.
It's a great movie too.
I only put Hoosiers up there because Hoosiers is just Hoosiers.
Sure.
I'd say Hoop Dreams next, and I'm not even lying. I'd say Hustle is number 3.
No blue chips.
Hustle is number 3.
So it is absolutely it really is. It was a solid. And my wife, who's not a big sports fan, she's not.
Well, that's the best. A best sports movie is a movie that tells a human interest story that somebody who doesn't even love that sport can get into.
She loved it.
So,
and it was a great movie. And so did you know Adam beforehand through?
Yeah, I played with Adam in the NBA Entertainment League, the famed secret society NBA Entertainment League. And this was a period between in the early 2000s where the NBA sponsored an actual entertainment league for people in the entertainment community, and we wore the actual uniforms, like authentic Laker uniforms, Celtics uniforms, etc. And this was before cell phones were allowed to film anybody. So Will Ferrell was in that league. Donald Faison was in that league. Josh Duhamel. I mean, I met everybody in that darn league. Steve Howie, my boy Steve Howie. And it became like a fraternity.
Yeah.
And so I hadn't seen Adam since 2019. There was a fundraiser softball game in Malibu for some fires that happened out there that was terrible. And Adam showed up. And I remember him, we introduced our daughters. And I remember him looking at me and he goes, I have something for you. I might, yeah. And and he only said it like in passing like that. And when somebody says something like that in our business,
right, you're like, sure.
You take it with a grain of salt,
sure.
and you just,
But now when he says that, you're going to believe it every time.
Yo.
Right.
I mean, it was like a year and a half on the dot.
Wow.
And I get the call. And so it's just like, it because of all those connect the dots.
Yeah.
It's having been in Hustle is something that just means a lot to me.
And you guys are pretty tight.
Yeah.
Now, to this day.
Oh, yeah. He's a mensch, man. He's a special one.
And before I let you go, you mentioned Faison. I know he's a big Star Wars guy. And
yes, he is.
He's a big Star. So that's where he found me because I hosted a show on Collider. It was Star Wars Jedi Council.
Okay.
And he used to watch it. So when I used to run into him at like the premieres and stuff, and we would talk Star Wars. And then he got a voice. He was in one of the animated shows.
I had no idea how much he was into stop motion animation.
He loves it.
It's his passion.
He loves
his life passion.
Yeah. So he would geek out about Star Wars. So I'm sure the next time we talk, we can talk about more Star Wars conversations. I'm sure you guys will have.
I have no idea what this guy's talking about.
Me either. But what I do know,
tangents and jumps all over.
That's what I do. That's normally what I do. So, Jaleel, thank you so much for joining me here today, man. I appreciate it. I want people to go and check out the book, please. and then it's out now.
Yeah, no, it's out. It's out on audio. I do the audio.
Yeah.
That didn't sound great right there, but I do the audio version, which I'm kind of proud of. That took a lot of hours, but I wanted to add another level of authenticity to it.
Well, I'm glad that you did. Thank you so much. It is a read that everybody should, especially look whether you watch Family Matters, who didn't, or if you didn't, you should really check it out because it is, as you said, a very, very. It's a great story and told in a great. I could hear it as you're talking to me. I could hear you. I didn't listen to it. I read it. Yeah. So reading it, I can hear your voice. So thanks again, man. I appreciate it,
dude. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
seriously.
Go watch Hustle.
Yeah, watch Hustle.